Hey you guys, so today we have a video from a lady who says that her foster mom basically committed tax fraud up in her name, stole her social, got a job, didn't report those wages in her own name. She didn't start getting a check in this girl's name because she didn't want to mess up her social security. I already know the game because I'm a tax preparer. I already know what the game is. So yeah, let's go ahead and watch this and I'll see y'all at the end.
Story time on my foster mom stole my social security number. So if you've been following me and my stories, you know that I'm doing stories about my life and things that have happened to me while I was growing up and in my life. And if you also been following me, you know that I went to foster care when I was about 9 or 10. So let's get into it. At some point, I left home, so I was an adult. The first time I left home, I was 18. I came back again when I was roughly 19, and then I left again, and I came back home again when I was roughly like 22, and then I left and got myself together. So my foster mom took care of me while I was growing up. She retired at some point. I believe I was in either 11th or 12th grade. She retired. And when she retired, I know that she was receiving a retirement check. I don't remember if she was receiving a social security check, but I do know she was receiving a retirement check. So a couple years go by. She then starts getting a little bit bored. So she wanted to try to find something to do to occupy her time. So she gets a job at this pharmacy. Now, this pharmacy, someone of her friends had given her the hookup to work at this pharmacy. And while she was working at the pharmacy, what she did was deliver medicine. So she used her own vehicle, her own cell phone, and she would deliver medicine to people, I guess, who couldn't come to the pharmacy. Kind of like what we have now on, like the grocery drop-offs and stuff like that, except she was the delivery woman. Now, I knew that she worked at this pharmacy because sometimes she would go away for the weekend because she was from Maryland. So she would go away from the weekend, but she would need someone to replace her to deliver the medicine on Fridays. And so I would get off of work at 4 o'clock, and then I would go and do all the deliveries for the pharmacy for her. And she would basically, like, whatever tips and stuff that I got, I just got to keep the tips. Okay. So I knew that she worked there. I knew that this was her little part-time job or whatever it is that she was doing. What I didn't know is that this whole time that she was working at this job, she was using my social security number. So I don't know if the people who owned it knew, but that's what it was given. Now, I'm going to tell you how I know. Now, the name of the pharmacy that was out front of the pharmacy, it was called Penn Pharmacy. So in my mind, I would have never thought that it was called anything else because the name on the front of the pharmacy was called Penn Pharmacy. So now fast forward, I'm a single mom and I go to do my income taxes. Now, when I go to do my income taxes, I only have one job. So I only have one W-2, right? So I turn that into the tax people, whatever. This year, that year, I got back a huge tax return. I got back like almost 9,000 and some change. Now, that wasn't odd for me, but I did think it was a little high because I felt like my previous returns were like 7,000 and some change. But this year I got like 9,000, 9,500. I'm just being honest with you guys. So again, I'm a newly single mom and I had, my apartment and I was waiting for my income tax to come because I had just got out of a toxic relationship and I was waiting to get my income tax so that I could deck out my apartment for me and my son. So, I'm buying, all the things that we need because I make money at my job, but still not enough to like truly make ends meet. So, I'm buying furniture. I put money on my car. I put a little something in my savings account for a rainy day because I didn't even have enough. I wasn't making enough money that if I was to be in a car accident, you know how your deductible is like $500. I didn't even have that. I couldn't afford that. So anyway, fast forward. I'm doing all the things. I'm doing all the things to get me and my son lined up to have a better life now that we're out of this toxic relationship that I was in. So, And I'm gonna do a story time on that too. But anyway, so I'm gonna say like a couple weeks go by, maybe a month. I get this letter in the mail from the IRS. The letter basically said that I didn't report money that I received, which was thousands of dollars, and that I got that large income tax check, but I owed like 4,000 of it back, and that I had 2 weeks, a 2-week time frame. It may have been 30 days, but it was somewhere between 2 weeks and 30 days I had to pay them their money back. I must have been reading this thing. Now, mind you, it said that I worked for Walden Pharmacy. And I'm like, because remember, the name on the front of the pharmacy was Penn Pharmacy. I didn't know what Walden Pharmacy is. So I call up to the IRS and I'm just like, there's a mistake. Something's wrong. This paper is saying that I work for Walden Pharmacy, but I work for this bank. I've never worked at a Walden Pharmacy. So they're like, okay, we'll research it, call you back. So they call me back the next day and they're like, no, like you worked at this pharmacy, you've received these funds and you've been receiving these funds, and this is what you owe and you need to pay it back. So I call my mom, my foster mom, and I'm on the phone keying with her and I'm talking to her about it. Like, they're saying that I owe this money and I went shopping and I don't have $4,000 to pay them, or they're going to garnish my wages out of my check. So, but she's quiet. Like, she's not saying anything. And I must have been like, you're my mom. Like, aren't you going to say something? So she goes, well, I have something that I need to tell you. And so I'm like, okay. She then proceeds to tell me that she's been using my social security number to deliver medicine for this pharmacy, but she did it under my social security number because she, I guess, didn't want to affect her income with social security or retirement or whatever. I don't know. I guess maybe at the time she could only make a certain amount of money, or they would cut down what she was getting. I don't know exactly how her business worked. However, she used my social security number and was, mind you, also keep in mind, the pharmacy was cutting her a check. They were cutting her a check in my name with my information on it, and then they were cashing the check for her at the pharmacy. So that's how I was never flagged. Like, she wasn't taking a check to the bank or anything like that. They were cashing the check and then giving her the cash. So they were like all in on it. And the only one that didn't know about it was me. So she tells me that she did this, and I'm just like, why would you do this to me? Like, why wouldn't you even ask me? I'm like, I went and did my taxes and now I owe $4,500 that I don't have. I spent the money doing up my apartment and getting myself together and getting my son summer clothes and like all of these different things. I paid on his camp because I didn't make enough to afford these things. So I always waited till I got my taxes to be able to do these things. So anyway, fast forward. She apologizes and basically tells me that she's going to pay the debt. Well, do you think she paid the debt? No, she never paid the debt. She told me to, so when I called the IRS, I just act like I didn't say it was me. I just called on the hotline and I said, there's a situation. What do you do if a family member used your social security number and you know that they used it, but now I'm in trouble for it? The lady on the line basically told me that I would need to prosecute her and that she could potentially serve jail time because she stole my social security number. Of course, it was my foster mom, so I felt bad because, she took me in and she took care of me. So I felt bad, getting her in trouble or getting her locked up. So she told me that she would make the payments. Well, fast forward, she never did. They started garnishing the wages out of my paycheck until I paid them back that whole entire $4,500. When I tell you I was sick, I was sick. She paid nothing, not $1 back. Stole my social security number. And the reason I say stole is because I'm an adult. I don't live with you. I live on my own. I take care of myself. Yeah, she knew the number because she was my foster mom. So it's like, I just feel like no matter what in life, like I was screwed over by so many people. So not only was I screwed over by my mom and the fact that she didn't take care of me, it was like I was grateful for my foster mom and her taking me in because she didn't have to. But I also have trauma from being connected to her and living at her house. So yes, she stole my social security number, delivered medicine under my name, cashed the checks at the pharmacy. I got in trouble for it. The IRS garnished $4,500 of my wages until they got all their money back. And yeah, that's that. Thank you for listening to my story time.
Okay, so all right, so I have a few things to say. First of all, the foster mom was wrong because, girl, you get a check for keeping her when she was in the system. One, two, if you do have somebody steal your information and they get money in your name, that's a whole ass fraud fraud case. I feel like she should have prosecuted her. I do not care if that was her foster mom, just so she could go ahead and amend her tax return. And I am a seasonal tax preparer, so I know a lot about taxes and a lot about returns. I see this stuff all the time, and IRS will catch up with you and say, hey, you didn't report these wages, so now you're gonna have to run us that money back. I would recommend, if you get a large tax return, to go ahead and save half of it. It could be hard because that's the extra chunk of money, but go ahead and save half of it just in case they try to spin the block and get your money later on. And I also want to say that because she didn't file an amendment or report that tax return as, or report her foster mom as, fraudulent to the IRS, that's why she had to pay the money back. So yeah, I'm done here. What y'all think? Let me know down below.